Hello you lovely lot and welcome to another video. My name is Katie. I also have a bit of a cold at the moment, but let's crack on with the UpCrate for November. As always, with our monthly subscription here, we have the items themselves, we have a magazine, and we have a print. However, this month's print is a picture of a bag. The featured artist is Ellie Brill, and I love the picture that's on the bag, but why couldn't we have that as a print? I don't know, it's a weird one. I like the picture on it, but it's a picture of the bag at the end of the day. It was weird. The items in this month's box are very much fabric painting themed, and we'll go into those in a moment. We of course have a surface to work on also, and it is a canvas bag, and it's made from 100% fair trade cotton. I like that, that's good. We also have a sheet of stickers. Now why couldn't we have a print with something like that on them, because them stickers are fab. And of course we have the bottle post, and that just gives us a little insight into the items we have, as well as a bit more about the featured artist and other artists as well. So whilst I am flicking through that, I'm going to let you know I will be publishing the UpCrate Advent Calendar video on the 1st of December. I'll simply just be doing an unboxing and a bit of an overview. So if you have the UpCrate calendar and you're actually going to do it properly and day by day, I definitely advise giving that video a skip. However, if you wanted to know what was in there, by all means check it out. Anyway, let's get back to this current box. So the prompt for this month was show who you are. Bit vague for me, and I kind of wanted a nice pretty design on my new tote bag. Also, I found it a little hard to just swatch things out, so we are diving straight in here, and I'll tell you about the materials as we go along. So we have 4 Giotto Decor textile markers. They are fabric fibre paint pens and are permanent and machine washable up to 40 degrees C. And they're all water based, and I guess you just seal it in with an iron afterwards. We have 3 colours. We have a black, a pink, a brown and a blue. I've gone for a moon design for this bag, and I thought outlining the moon in the blue would be a great idea, and then just for a bit of wacky contrast, I thought using those pinks would be perfect for the outline of the clouds. We also have the Pebeo Setacolour opaque paints, and they are 20 millilitres, and we have 4 colours of those. We have a white, a light blue, I guess purpley magenta-y colour, and a mauve colour as well. Which is perfect. That's actually a nice limited colour palette we've got there. After everything was lined out, it was time to apply that colour, and this is where I'll get into a little bit more depth as to how these were to paint with. And of course, to paint with, we got a Lucas Gold Tray round brush in size 6. I like Lucas materials, so it's nice to have another item by them. So, let's talk about this paint, shall we? I found it difficult to mix, to be honest. I wanted a sort of purpley blue for the background, obviously transitioning into the more pure blue towards where the moon was. These paints are so opaque that it really did take quite a lot of the magenta-y purpley colour to actually make an impact. I did in the end, and I didn't end up mixing too much as a result because this paint is thick. I found myself having to dip back into the paint palette quite a lot just to make sure I'd got enough on the brush to smoosh around on the canvas there. That's not a bad thing, that was just me and my experience with this paint, and I guess figuring out how to use it. I don't think I've used fabric paints before, so this was a new to me. I guess the only thing I can compare it to as close as possible is to painting on a canvas with acrylics. However, when you paint on a canvas, you've usually got the gesso primer on there, and that obviously stops all the liquidy parts, like the really runny parts of the paint, soaking in. However, with this canvas bag, it is literally just the canvas. A good tip I can give you if you haven't opened or used your box yet or waiting to do it is make sure you sandwich a piece of paper preferably greaseproof paper between, well, just put a sheet of paper in your bag so it doesn't transfer through onto the other side. And of course, it will stop your bag sticking together. I used just a regular sheet of paper, and I probably should have used a greaseproof paper, but never mind. We live and we learn, don't we? For the moon, as I'm sure you've just witnessed, I scribbled a little bit of one of those fabric pens into the palette and then added the white to it. I just wanted it to be more of a very pale silvery grey rather than just going straight on there with the white. For the background, which yes, I'm going back to there, I did actually find that I managed to get quite a nice gradient there. I mean, that's not really something I do a lot of, especially with these thicker mediums, but I did find it quite a good process actually. It worked out quite nicely. I also found as well, whilst I was painting the moon and the clouds there, that because the blue area had dried somewhat, it did make adding those finer, more crisp edged details a little easier, because obviously the previous paint, I guess, had primed it, so it wasn't quite running away as much. Now, when I opened this box up initially, I was a little bit underwhelmed. And I don't know why, because it is a surprise box. I do think we've got a good value box, but I'll get to that in a bit. But I was just thinking, okay, we've only got one surface to work on and a very restricted palette, blah, blah, blah. But I can't actually tell you how much I got into this whilst I was working with it. I actually thought it was a fun process, and yeah, I got to learn about fabric paints, which again, it's just something I haven't done. I guess the closest you could say is when I've done silkscreen printing back in college a couple of decades ago, and we obviously used a specific kind of acrylic paint which probably had something in it, a medium in it, that made it suitable to go onto fabrics. That was it though. There was no applying it with a brush. It was literally screen down, squeegee across, and we're done. So it was actually quite a nice experience to actually just have a whole project in one box. I know it sounds weird because it is a whole project in one box, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I properly got into this. I think if I had ironed the bag before working on it, it might have made it a little easier for me, because I did find some of those dimples and creases, obviously from where it was folded up and put in the box. Yeah, they did create a little bit of resistance with the brush. However, once the paint was on it, obviously it ended up flattening out a little bit more, and I was fine after that. But I mean, I hate using the iron, so I didn't really want another excuse to pull it out, so I just went straight in there. I also really appreciate as well the item of fabric we were given, I suppose, as our surface. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have minded a scrap bit of fabric to swatch things out on, but again though, I kind of roughly knew what the colour scheme I wanted, so I kind of figured out how it would work. Obviously, if you wanted to swatch it out, I'm sure you can find a scrap piece of fabric, but it might have been nice to have had one included in there, but it isn't the end of the world. I also appreciate the fact it is a functional piece as well. I mean, a bag or a pencil case would have been absolutely fine, but I appreciate the bag more. I'm definitely going to use it. And overall, it was just fun. I went into this box thinking, oh, okay, this is a thing. But yeah, I got into it. I found it quite a nice and relaxing experience, and quite a nice rewarding one at the end of it too. But anyway, let's go back to what's happening on screen rather than me just waffling on there. So after all the clouds were painted in, I thought I'd just add a few highlights as to, I guess, where I'd think the moon would be shining on them. And again, because that previous layer had dried somewhat, it was a lot easier to add those details on there. I guess if I was to do this project again, although I don't really have any regrets, but for ease of use, I'd probably paint the whole background white, use that as a primer, and then go over it with all of the colours afterwards. I was a little curious to see how these pens interacted over the top of the paint, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to just add a little more definition in there, a few crisper lines, and I wasn't disappointed. I obviously knew there would be an outline there. I'm not trying to blend anything in or anything, and rather than try and fight against it, I just used it to my advantage and used it to just add those details in there. I personally think using the black pen would have been a little bit too harsh, and the brown, it didn't really fit with the colour scheme I was using, which is why I haven't swatched them out. Sorry. But yeah, overall, I was quite happy with how these pens worked as well. I go on to use the white just to add a few stars there in the background, and then once everything had had a good day's worth of drying, I sealed it all in by finally getting the iron out and sealing it all in, and it was fine. Again, I would recommend getting the greaseproof paper out. Again, you don't want any of that paint that's seeped through that first layer to get stuck to the back layer there. And of course you want to put something over the top of your actual image as well, because you don't want to wreck your iron. Even though I hate my iron, I hate ironing, and that would be doing me a favour, I guess, but then I guess it wouldn't for when I actually do need to use it. Oh, I hate ironing. Is anyone else with me on that one? Honestly, I will do my very, very best to avoid doing it. It's only if it's absolutely necessary. Now, although I don't think I'd done a particularly messy job on the exterior of the painted area, I thought I would just go over and just again tidy those edges up. I was nearly tempted to use the black, but again I just think it would have been a little bit too harsh. And as you'll see, some of the creases did make it a little hard, but if you just pull the fabric taut, it will minimise the inconvenience it causes there. But anyway, in conclusion, which I'm pretty much sure you've all gathered by now, this box was a hit for me. I went into it not thinking it would. Eventually it turned out to be, so yes, good work there, UpCrate. I was happy. I've got something I'll use as well, which makes me very happy too. Of course, you guys, let me know down below what you think, whether you had this box and enjoyed it, or was it a miss for you? Let me know. Also, let me know as well if you've used this medium outside of UpCrate and this box, and let me know if your experiences have been good, if you continue to use these particular brands, or if you've found any alternatives. Anyway, this piece is finished. Just to let you know, again, on the 1st of December, I will be publishing the UpCrate Advent Calendar, so if you're interested in that, be sure to make sure you're subscribed, got the notification on, all that wonderful stuff that everyone else talks about, just so you don't miss it, unless you want to miss it, and that's okay too. If you can't wait until my next new video, there should be some others on screen that I think you're going to enjoy, so why not give one of them a hit? As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you lovely lots soon. Bye!